Would you feel more comfortable on an improv stage or canoeing in the backcountry? Find out which Book Interrupted member you're most like by visiting www.bookinterrupted.com/members.
Parental guidance is recommended because this episode has mature topics and strong language. Here are some moments you can look forward to during this episode of Book Interrupted.
I feel like Lowry got bored. And she left.
But then it wasn't like he walked around with a boner all the time.
Yes. Oh, totally, right? Like low-key white supremacy.
None of it's literal. Stop. It's figurative.
All of the comforts of our life is not actually that good for us.
How did we lose that one? Oh, she couldn't have the sex.
We lose so many that way.
We lose so many.
I wonder why this book was banned.
Babies in the garbage.
Seems normal.
No way.
Mind, body, and soul. The information is the goal. Try to learn something new without being distracted. Mind, body, and soul. The information is the goal. Trying to learn something new without being disrupted. Mind, body, and soul. Inspiration is the goal. And we're gonna talk it out on Book Interrupted.
Welcome to Book Interrupted, a book club for busy people to connect and one that celebrates life's interruptions. During this banned book cycle, we're reading The Giver by Lois Lowry. This book has been banned for violence, sexual references, infanticide, euthanasia, and suicide. If you'd like to join along, this book cycle is from August 1st to October 1st. Let's listen in to this episode's group discussion.
This is the last episode for the book The Giver by Lois Lowry.
I think it's Lois, isn't it?
I don't know, but I like it.
It is Lois.
Listen, I saw an interview and she said it's pronounced Lowis.
She said
Really?
Really?
No.
Oh my God. You're something else.
That's
I
what
love
Could you
it.
imagine? It's
You're
pronounced
obsessed.
Lois.
Lois. That's Dear Tay. Have you guys ever seen
Yeah,
the
Dear
Joe
Tay.
Dirt? It's Dear Tay. I love that
Wonderful.
movie.
Feels like it's been a really long time since we talked about this book last
That's
time.
what I
Yeah,
said
yeah.
too. I don't even remember ever talking about it. Are you sure this isn't the introduction episode?
Oh, I remember talking about it because I couldn't believe the liberties that the movie version took. I was like,
right.
what? The main character isn't a teenager having his first love experience? I was like, this changes everything.
Yeah, that's funny, right? He's supposed to be just entering puberty. That's why they take the pills.
Yeah.
They don't
Yes.
feel the things. They have to start taking it then.
I also I just realized that never really went anywhere. He took them and then he was like, that was also the first day he didn't take the pill. But then it wasn't like he walked around with a boner all the time.
Yes.
I completely agree. I feel like they made it a point to say
Well, the pills aren't about boners.
the
Kinda
point.
there.
Yeah, kind of. I feel like they're about boners.
Well,
Yes,
like
yeah,
kind of.
Dreams.
the boner might be the end, but the beginning is the thoughts, the feelings, the whole of like puberty.
Traction.
Yeah.
It's the wet dreams.
I think not just puberty because the parents take them too. Like
Yeah, I
all
think
the
the parents
adults,
take them.
All of the adults take
Mhm.
them. It's about numbing your feelings. Because
Yes.
feelings are not acceptable.
Exactly.
Even when they're like at the table and they're saying, I had a feeling today. Even said the book, they don't know the meaning of that feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're like rehearsing.
Exactly. And the variety of emotions and feelings are a threat because that's what could lead to non-conformity. And I think
Yes.
that's one of the main themes
Yes.
from the book
Yes.
and the movie.
In his pants.
Yes, and his pants is about
Non-conformity in the pants.
conformity of the boner.
His trouser tent.
Your pants aren't hanging properly. Have you been taking your pills? Anyway, so agreed the boners are part of it, but that's not the main reason. Yeah.
But, I mean, it's really ultimately about control, though, right? Like it's the
Yes, yes.
whole society is about ultimate control. And
Mhm.
I think those stirrings, the pills for the stirrings is a big part of it.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's kind of weird too, though, because before the pills, They're still feelings. You know what I mean? Like as people not part of that society, you have feelings like toddlers have tantrum. Like these are
Yeah,
feelings.
the
Like, this is-
basics,
right?
yeah.
Like, so I don't understand the timing unless that's just, I guess the requirement is once you reach this age, you're expected to control your feelings. And so this pill will help you.
I think it's your sexual feelings in particular.
Yes, I think so.
I think Mare's saying all feelings because the adults are still taking it. And
Mhm.
like, so it's,
You're right. It's probably an emphasis on sexual.
I think it's even the nuances of feelings. It's the more complex feelings, the potential for having even a emotional paradox within. If it's not very clean and straightforward and can lead to purpose in some sort of communal functioning way, it seems like that's when emotions were troublesome.
I think it could also be desire.
Yeah.
Because you can't even have the desire for your own career. They tell you what you're going to do.
Or your children.
Yes.
Yes. Anything beyond that age,
Yes, you're right. It is desire.
right? There's all kind of desire. Maybe that.
I think everyone having their own desire, what did they call it? Sameness. I think if everyone had their own desire, they wouldn't be having this sameness. And so that's probably part of why they take the pills too, is they want everyone to think the same, feel the same, do the same.
Yeah.
and the timing is about, I guess, adolescence is when you really start to explore your individuality. And I guess that's what they're
Absolutely.
trying to dampen
Yes.
is no
Yeah.
individuals here. Everybody got to be the same.
And that's when you start to rebel as well.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah,
to
it
bring it
seems like-
back to the sexual component, because I'm just going to keep bringing it back there. I think that's around that age, right? Where people start, their hormones are kicking in. They're starting to find people attractive, they're sexually attracted to people. So I think that's what I took out of the book when they were talking about the stirrings. It was like of that age, when you start
Mhm.
hubba for.
That's
But they
how I
also
felt
don't want
too.
that, right? Because
No,
they even
no, for
pick
sure.
your person you marry based on how they think that
Mhm.
relation will be more harmonious, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's
And
not about,
advantageous to the collective.
right? Not about,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even there's a section in the book where they say, I think Jonas says, why don't we let people pick even their own partners? And then I believe the giver says something along the lines of, what if they pick wrong? And
Right.
so I think that's a part of the society too, is who's ever in power thinks that they know right and believes that everyone will pick, well, maybe not everyone, but certain people will pick wrong options, and then that could lead to a catastrophe.
Hmm.
Can we talk a little bit about the giver, the actual guy? So he was chosen. He's got this super painful and terrible job, is to like feel all these
It's
terrible,
like the worst job. Yeah.
the worst
Mhm.
job.
Yes.
And yet the power of like a controlling group to make somebody still do it. And then his daughter, can we talk about the daughter?
Yeah.
Where
Rosemary.
she was the
Ah.
first one chosen to be the
Oh.
receiver. He loved her and yet he went along with it. It's just amazing how you can have control and people to go along with it. Because I mean, they couldn't have lived without the giver, even though he had all this pain. He accepted that he had to.
So,
Yeah.
because you just said he couldn't live without the giver, and then I was like, yeah, why do they even have that? But because he's the guy holding it all. If he didn't exist, then everyone has to
Yes.
have it. Basically,
Yeah.
that's the point,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
the fact that he loved Rosemary and then she released herself,
Mhm.
then I think that circumstance ultimately led to the giver and now the new receiver, Jonas, making the decision to give the memories back to everyone.
Yes. Absolutely.
Because of
Yeah,
that feeling
for
of
sure.
love and heartache and
I
all
think
that,
the giver
right?
had to have that experience because it almost acted as that disruptive force that opened up a space within his mind to start considering other, and other being what he wasn't socialized to think, believe, and feel.
Or potentially even consider himself.
Oh, yes.
Because that's really what they're all.
You know what I mean? Wiped clean of doing. They're just like the collective, the collective, the collective. And through the loss of his daughter, he couldn't deny, and being a feeling holder, he's already vulnerable as far as they'd be concerned. He couldn't deny himself because that love trumped the collective, I guess, really.
Yes. And is love our biggest form of desire, regardless of whether it comes out sexually or vocationally or whatever?
I think it's more about the connection, which comes out with love too. Nobody's connection in the giver is authentic.
because authenticity is suppressed within the society. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Very lonely place for someone not taking the pills, right?
Could you imagine?
Because people just want to understand. They're like, I'm feeling, oh, you lost your temper.
Go to
and
bed.
stomped your foot.
Yes.
That's anger, right? Yeah.
How the society is set up, even the receiver or the giver, they are set up to be so isolated that it's surprising that even Jonas, maybe not surprising, but he's like, when he gets the memories of grandparents, he says, oh, I wish we had that. He wants that love. And it's so sad that they let the giver or the receiver feel all these feelings, and then they can never share that with anyone, and they can never feel it beyond their memory. And that is so sad and isolating. And I think that's part of how they keep the receiver or giver in the community, is just no one else knows about these feelings and memories. So even if they told them, they're probably like, what are you talking about?
Well, in effect, what you're describing is that they're keeping the giver and receiver traumatized, because trauma tells us that we are
Yes.
alone in
Mhm.
our experience, that we are isolated.
Absolutely.
And so that perpetual loop, that stress cycle, you're right, is in a way preventing the giver or receiver being able to break out and connect. The fact that Jonas was able to is monumental.
It's funny that you say that, though, because obviously what you're describing, I wouldn't want to choose. But when Mare first said it's the worst job or whatever, inside I was like, no, it's the best job. When I was reading, I was like, I want to be the giver or the receiver. Like, I don't want to be
For
the rest
sure.
of the fucking robots. So I guess that's just like a reflection kind of maybe my acceptance that it's about balance, right? Like, you can't know joy if you don't know despair.
And you can't
Right,
know
like-
true purpose unless you understand your pain.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So like the pain is
Absolutely.
painful and bad, but it's actually good because by contrast, it really highlights the good feelings.
Yeah.
I found it
Mhm.
interesting, like to Ash's point. Do you remember how they had the day that they could all play? And Jonas, because of his memories, he couldn't play with his friends like he used to. Remember they were playing like
The war game.
the war games,
Mhm.
yeah, and he had experienced what
Yes,
war is
yes.
like, and he couldn't interact with them. So I feel like that really cemented his isolation, and that he could no longer just be a kid and play with his friends because he had memories. So it's almost like further isolates him having this.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One thing I thought was really interesting, part of it I'd love to see, happen more in our everyday lives, is the clarity of language. You know how they would always get in trouble if they said like, oh, I'm
Yeah.
starving. Okay, no, but you're not starving. When I was reading it, I thought, sometimes I wish we had that more, in our everyday life as well. But then it would just get really friggin' annoying though, too, right? Because sometimes you just want to blow off steam and be like, I'm starving. It's like, okay, no, I'm actually not physically starving. So anyway, I wanted your perspectives on that too.
But now that you mention it, I think that part of it is that one of the reasons we exaggerate is to communicate a feeling, how extreme we're feeling about this particular situation or our mood.
Mhm.
Exaggeration sometimes goes along with mood,
Sure.
and excitement.
your point.
So I think
Mhm.
maybe it's like, uh-oh, they're getting a little too close to feeling something, right? Like,
Yeah.
stop and think. Don't feel, just think and pick the right word.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like they didn't like when people were feeling extreme, when they would say certain words and it was kind of extreme, like starving is somewhat of an extreme of being hungry. Asher, I don't remember what he said, but then he got whacked. Oh, right. He said whack instead of snack.
Oh, yeah. I forgot that part.
I think that's pretty hardcore to whack a kid. Yeah.
Asher was
Yeah,
very
like,
likable.
Yeah.
He was, wasn't he? Yeah. They can almost do a spin-off on Asher.
A spinoff.
Well, this is a 4-book series.
Oh, it is?
Mm.
I
Is
realized
it
later.
actually? I thought it was the single book.
I'd be interested in reading the others.
Did you read any more then?
I've read 2 of the 4.
Of course
I
you
was like,
have.
I should try to read them before the podcast. I read 2 of the 4 this week because again, they're not super
Classic
long.
Meredith.
So one of the things that I like about the book, but a lot of people hate about the book, is that at the end you don't know what really happened, and so it makes you think.
Hate it.
Like, did this happen? Did that happen? And so
Oh, I
like you
love
really
that.
start reflecting on the book, on like what it could mean, and is it a happy ending or a sad ending, or can I choose, and all that stuff, right? But if you want to read some more of the books, there's some closure in the last book. about what happened at the end in the first book. So I read the second one, which is not in this community. It's a different community. In this dystopian future, there's this community, but there's other communities and they're running the show differently. And there's different aspects of control or not, or lack of.
Cool.
Different communities interact with each other a little bit.
Oh my God.
Can I make a prediction?
Okay, yeah, make a prediction.
I just think that book 2 may be the extreme opposite. So this one was super controlled. So I think book 2 is going to be like, and then what if there was no control?
I want to know the second book, if you read it, Mare, or is it the third? I want to know which book tells me if these guys lived. That's all I want to know.
I need to jump
Number 4.
Number 4. I'm only reading number 4.
Do it, Sarah. Do it.
So I haven't read the third one, which is, I'm.
Is it? Do you know if it's another society? Then the third one is a third example.
I don't know about number 3. Number 2 is a different society, and there's
Yeah.
control as well, but in a different way.
Okay.
First, it seems like there's less control, but you
But
find
then
out
it's
later
secret,
that
hidden.
there's
Yeah.
still people in charge doing stuff, right? Pulling the strings. There's a character in that book that is in book number 4 as well. I'm wondering if maybe there's characters in the third book in the last book. I don't know. I'll have to read it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
Book 4. I'm going to go right to book 4 then.
Book 4.
I
You
just-
are? I was going to ask, would Sarah be able to give herself permission to skip over 2 and 3? Because it's a sequence.
No, I don't want to know about the other.
Okay.
I don't want to know the world.
Okay.
I need to know if the little baby and Jonas live.
That's how I feel too, Sarah. I feel the same way.
I just want to know.
Yeah.
I don't even care. I want the version that's in my head.
What does it care? What's the
Happens.
what
What
do
do
you
you all
think
works
happens?
out? Oh my God. I'm so the underdog rises and everything is glorious in the end and everyone loves each other. Yeah.
So you think they toboggan down the hill into
town.
Into
the
town.
embracing arms of grandparents into forever Christmas land.
Forever Christmas Land. Yes, me too.
Yeah. And then that's the beginning of rebuilding a new way for that society. And it all works out.
They adopt them. The grandparents are there. It's like perfect. That's what I want to.
He has a boner.
Yes, a boner. Oh my God.
Yeah, it's completely. That's why I don't want to read the fourth one because I'm like, no, I'm holding on to this.
Well, even if you just read the synopsis, you'll get a little closure. But it's called Sun.
Sun.
It's called Sun.
S-O-N or S-U-N?
S-O-N.
Okay.
It brings us back to the community and the giver. And the main character is a girl who's been chosen to be a birth mother. And she gives birth to, can you guess it?
A new giver?
Gabriel?
Gabriel. So it's starts as a parallel
Gabriel.
story. The baby.
Interesting.
The baby from the giver.
The babe.
The baby.
Yeah, that baby was interesting. I felt like there was a lot of potential loaded there with that little one.
I love
Uh,
him.
I know.
They're gonna release him.
Yeah, failure to thrive. Why didn't he just freaking go to sleep? I'm sure.
I know, like just because he couldn't sleep.
I love they're like failure to thrive.
But you know what's funny too? Is like he's failing to thrive because, like, again, back to the trauma point.
Well, thrive under their standards
that connection and the way they're doing it as far as what we know
is
as a
wrong.
Exactly. We're going to take you from your mother immediately. You get housed over here.
And we're going to wonder about why, in your isolation and non-connection, you're acting up.
Yeah.
And what do you think about Jonas giving Gabriel the memories to help Gabriel sleep?
I like it.
Oh, I loved
I
it.
loved it so much.
I loved it.
Everything that Jonas did that was a rebellion.
I was
like,
kind of expecting there to be more of a punishment for him to be doing that. I thought someone was going to find out or something, and that was going to be a big problem. But it was kind of wholesome. He was just
Storytelling.
trying to help
I
Gabriel,
know.
like
I
something
love
I think we
that.
would do.
Fairy
That's something
tales.
we would do to our babies. Yes, totally.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Until he was
bedtime
going to
story.
go be released, though, right? And then
So, in a way, is one of the things that the first book then is exploring is the author's idea that our humanness is actually connected to and tied up within emotions, memories, and storytelling. In a nutshell, is that kind of what you think the author is playing with?
She probably read Women Who Run with the Wolves before she wrote this.
Maybe.
She's probably one of the 4.
I also think it's individuality is a big part of it too.
Yes, authenticity, individuality. Yeah.
That's why they had to get rid of one of the twins. Remember, there can't
Yes.
be anybody that's
Which is ironic because they love sameness. They love sameness.
yes, but two same.
Yeah, because they're all essentially twins.
Yeah, isn't it? But not too much the same. That's where we
But
draw
But
the
also
line.
maybe because twins come with that built-in, at least by folklore. I've never done a twin study myself, but that built-in connection.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Everyone always, I was 3 states away and my foot hurt
Oh.
All right.
when hers caught on fire or whatever.
Also, each family has to get one girl and one boy. They would have to separate them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can have like a sisterly bond because we
yeah.
shared a bedroom for 40 years. Because that happens too, right? You and Leah still sleep together, right, Kara?
Obviously, yes. I'm really struggling right now. She's traveling, and I'm like, we're not sharing the bedroom anymore. Oh my God. Do you guys remember like being kids, for anyone who had like a sibling? Leah and I would have to share bedrooms every house we moved to. And it was always like, I want my own room. And then finally we moved to a house where we had each our own room. Do you think we spent time in our own room?
That's
Nope.
just what kids are like, I'm realizing. They're
Aren't
like,
they?
I hate this. And then you're like, fine, we'll never do it again. And then they're like, it's the only thing I want.
And you're like, I don't know how to respond to you.
It's the only thing.
You just want me to go crazy.
Yup. Story of my life.
We had a
Yeah.
snow day, right? And something was going on with work. So the buses weren't running. So if the kids went to school and I had to pick them up, it was in between something that was really important with work, right? So I said to them, hey, could you just stay home today, not go to school, and just do like the online school, or not even, right?
Yeah.
One said, oh yeah, for sure. The other one goes, nope, I want to go to school. I'm like, you're so
course
full
you
of
do.
shit, buddy. Like you're
No,
just
you
doing it to
don't.
push back against me, right? I go, fine, okay, I'll figure this out, go to school. And then sure enough, by the end of the day, he's like, that was a big mistake going to school.
You're like, yeah, it was.
I'll learn, you loser.
And now you're home to suffer the consequences.
And then you're like,
Push
remember this for
against,
next
right?
time, and they never will.
And they
You
never
remember
will.
last time, but it's different this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've changed my mind.
It was just to push against me, right? It was just a challenge, right?
Or to be independent of the sibling.
Yes, that independence and individuality.
They want to go, I don't want to go. Or they don't want to go, I need to go to school. I must.
Yes.
This is how I know who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
never
define
happened.
myself in accordance to your opposite.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think about the people or person who like designed this society? Part of it's all around comfort. We don't want any discomfort. And that's kind of a little bit like our world now, where we're being told this story that comfort is good, but now what we find is that all of the comforts of our life is not actually that good for us, right?
No.
What's that movie with the fat people in the chairs? Is it Wall-E?
Oh, I love
Yes.
Wally.
Like that's the
yes.
result of extreme comfort or whatever, and
Right.
instant gratification.
We can't remember anything.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
You need some adversity.
Eva. I'm sorry. I love it when he when he
Good
calls
movie.
Eva's name. It's so beautiful. It's one of my favorite movies.
You know, I was talking to a friend yesterday about this, about health and stuff. If you want to be healthy long term, you have to do some things that are uncomfortable. But if you're always told the story that comfort is good and you should want comfort and we're striving towards it, then it makes it harder to be like, I'm going to do this hard thing to be healthy, rather than saying it's a good thing to have a little bit of adversity. Like with Jonas, it's a good thing to feel these bad things because then we have a richer life or whatever, like, you know.
And same with
Totally.
like it also ties in with Glennon Doyle saying you can do hard things as an epiphany, right? Like as if things
That's an
shouldn't.
epiphany.
Yeah, like as if things shouldn't be hard. Things are hard, and I can do them. I don't have to drink and drug my life away just because things are hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That good
Yeah.
things can come out of me being resilient. Yeah. And,
And
choosing to
uncomfortable.
exactly.
It's about discomfort.
Yeah. Actually, that's something that's come up in observing that amongst my daughter's generation, at least their friend group, a lot of talk around, that makes me uncomfortable. So-and-so's making me uncomfortable. And like you just hear something enough that you start to be like, is this like some sort of weird pattern? But it's almost like it's being used, I don't want to say weaponized, but it is almost being used as a manipulative tactic. I can't read your mind. You can't read mine, but the way it's being delivered, it's as if you should know that that would make me uncomfortable. Instead of it just being like, oh, that makes me uncomfortable. I'm going to look after myself now and I need to do X, Y, and Z. It's just looked at like, that makes me uncomfortable. You're a bad person. How could you bring that up? Don't you know the golden rule is ultimate comfort here? It's just a weird observation. I don't even know what, I think I'm raising it because I just can't get my head around it. Just this ethos of the way we do things around here have everything to do with our comfort.
Well, and I think also it negates what should come out of your expression of your discomfort, which could be a conversation that could lead to learning. Right? That ties for me with cancel culture. Like, you made me uncomfortable,
Yes.
so now you're canceled or whatever.
Now you're canceled.
Yeah. Or you've done something wrong, whatever it might be, discomfort, whatever. So now you must stop existing and lose all of your financial ability to support yourself or whatever, right? And sometimes
we make mistakes.
Sometimes the response is appropriate, exactly. But most of the time we are not acknowledging that humans are fallible and make tons of mistakes all the time. And if you were just ready to talk about it in a way, with the goal of learning or improvement or growth or whatever, then your discomfort could actually be the starting point of a better person out of both of you.
Yeah, totally. Is that what the pill is about then with the giver? It's not just desire. It's let's just make sure no discomfort arises because that's too much of a variable.
And that's the twins too. People get uncomfortable when they call somebody by the wrong name. If you're
Yeah.
twins, it would happen more often. Be like,
Oh, yeah, true.
Yep.
I need comfort. You guys look too much alike.
Could you just wear a hat?
Please.
Name tags. Name tags, everyone. Wait, they do have name tags though, right?
They do, yeah.
They should just make twins have surgery. But I think it's more than just the looks too, right? Because there's that, I think, that secret twin connection. Because otherwise they could be like, okay, they're twins, but as a baby, we gave one of them a nose job.
To really, when we tattooed their face, number one or whatever.
A tear.
Oh my God.
Literally.
Guys-
Or I was going to make this point about the language that Virginia was saying. It's like when people are saying literally, I'm doing it all the time right now, when it's not literally. It's
Yes.
literally figuratively. And
Yeah.
like,
Oh, I do the
people say
same thing.
literally all the time.
I had a girl I used to work with. That was her biggest pet peeve because people constantly say literally, and she'd be like, okay, listen, none of this is literal. Everyone here, none of it's literal. Stop. It's figurative. That's it. Now we can move on with the meeting.
It's
It was
nice to say
uncomfortable.
figuratively. Like, just try to replace it with figuratively.
Yeah, figuratively. Figuratively.
But it doesn't give you the punch, right? Literally.
Yeah, because it's the same thing as starving. Like, I was literally dying.
Yeah,
You know?
literally.
You need
You're
to know.
right. It is all figurative.
Oh my God. You weren't literally doing that, and you were dying because you're telling me right now. So stop.
Well, we are all literally dying. But in
Yes.
some long version.
Every day.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I liked in the book too how they brought that back. Jonas and Gabriel, how they were walking away. And then he's like, oh, this is what starving actually feels like. So I thought that was a nice link from, the previous discussion about the exaggeration of language.
I wonder how they control their weather. Do you think they're in like a biodome kind of
Yes,
thing?
Yeah.
that's what I imagine. That's
Like-
why I also didn't
like
think he
Hunger
was going to
Games.
be able to, spoiler alert, escape. I thought he was just going to run into an invisible wall like Truman Show or something.
Mm.
Yeah, you can never get past.
But then like there's the planes in the sky. But I mean, the Hunger
know.
Games, whatever. We have to suspend our belief. For whatever reason, they can control that segment of area, but not so much that people can't run out of it.
Yeah.
You think that they would think of that if they really cared about control that much? I don't think they're serious.
But they all just have bicycles. So maybe
Yeah.
that might be like, no one's getting out of here.
How far can you really go on a bike? Come on.
Yeah.
You could pretty far.
That's what I'm saying. This is a massive oversight of the controllers.
Not really
Yeah.
though. They get rid of everybody they think that is going to be difficult to control. They try to get rid of them early on, right?
Yes.
The babies that can't be controlled right off,
Mm-hmm.
they're
Released.
gone. And if people do something against the rules, you're out of here. So
Yeah, immediately released. Yeah.
So you don't need literal borders of protection because figuratively
Everyone is confined.
they're within the mind. That was
Well
good.
done.
Sorry,
Well
I just
done.
wanted to play with literal and figurative a bit more.
Yeah, we
should
got
be
that.
sorry. Like you apologize.
I'm sorry.
That's what we were talking about.
Sorry for appropriately joining the convo.
That's just how conversations go.
It's actually in accordance.
You don't have to apologize.
Coincidentally. That is the evolution of how people talk.
I came to this conversation willingly. Oh my god.
What do you think about that
Oh my
whole
God.
thing with the release? Jonas realized that his dad was actually murdering all these babies, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
that's crazy.
God.
I have a question. What
Yeah.
about when the old man like walked out a door? Did he walk to another man stabbing him in the eye or whatever they did
Yeah.
to the baby? Like
Yeah.
everyone got
That's what I thought
killed,
too.
right? Like release wasn't just like
Yeah.
go try to
Yeah.
walk to the next town.
no, you're
No,
dead.
kill.
Yeah.
Yeah. We were reading it and I was like,
Dun,
I
dun.
have a suspicion that release might mean kill.
Mhm. But I don't
I
think
knew
they
right off the
ever
bat.
blatantly spell it out.
Only when Jonas gets to watch the
Yeah.
video
Yeah.
of his dad doing it to the baby.
Mhm.
Did the dad realize they were being murdered? Or do you think he just was so caught up in this fantasy that they've created for him that he's just thought they were sleeping or they were going, but he
I
knew they
don't
were
know.
getting
No, I think he knows.
No, he was killing them.
I think he genuinely thought he was doing the right thing. Like he grew up thinking that's right and was taught that's okay.
Yeah,
And I
Even
think the
like
only reason
choose
Jonah
people.
knows that it's not right is because he has memories
Right.
of death or like pain and stuff like that. They don't have those memories. So they probably don't even know. Do they know what death is?
I don't know.
Yeah, do they really know what death
Because
is?
death is a sad emotion, right? So do these people just go to their old folks' home? They never
Ah.
see them again. And so that helps with not feeling that emotion of sadness.
Well, they have a celebration of their release, but they don't know that the release means like they cease to exist. They think they just go through a door.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's like retirement.
Just the dad because of the babies.
Special
He put
jobs
it in the-
no.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
special
Special
jobs
jobs know.
knows. Yeah, and they have rules with their jobs, right? So they're
Yeah.
not allowed to share that stuff. And his dad put it in the garbage. Like he knows.
Yeah,
was just
yeah,
like-
yeah. Pretty
Ah.
cavalier, right? Like do do do.
Where they banned this book.
Why did they? I wonder why this book was banned.
Babies in the garbage.
Seems normal.
No way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But that's not why it was banned. It's not like-
I think
I think
part of
that
it.
was part of it.
Part
yeah.
of it, yeah.
Oh, it was? Oh,
Yeah,
okay. Gotcha.
infanticide. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Reading the book and looking at the context about what is the message that they were saying, it seems
Mhm.
like
They're saying
X.
it's bad.
yeah.
Not that, not let's
Like,
do
it's
it.
not like the book was like, and this is the appropriate next step.
Yeah.
On any level.
Here is a society to model yourselves after.
Yeah.
Do you
All
think
in
this
favor.
book should be a required reading for kids in school? Do you think the messages and the
No.
discussion is important enough?
The only reason I'm saying no is because I read it in middle school and
Oh, you
thought it
did?
was so boring.
I was just going to
Yes,
say
and
the
then
same
I
thing.
reread
I'm
it
like,
and I
don't know
thought
that
it was so boring. I just wanted it to end. Like the last quarter of it, didn't care. It just went on and on and on. Okay, he biked off, and especially because it's an open ended, we could have just left with he biked off and
Yeah.
Totally.
skipped the last
Mm.
yeah, in my opinion. But I do think it is cool to have a society because we always think like, oh, what if we lived in a perfect society? So I think that's cool, but I think there's a lot more entertaining educational books
Yeah.
for me.
I agree. I totally agree with Ashley. I like the idea of introducing curriculum that will challenge kids to explore the themes that we're kind of talking about right now. But I don't think that this book is the best tool to accomplish that goal. I also thought the book was
Yes.
boring and terrible. And so did
Mhm.
my son, who's not yet in
Oh.
middle school, but he was
Okay.
also like,
Oh.
why are you forcing me to read this? And I was like, because I have to.
Very
Perspective.
surface level. It just
Mm.
it didn't really go deep into anything.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it never caught my attention. I had no idea what was going on in middle school. And even now that I know what's going on, I'm like, oh my goodness.
Actually, I'm with you. The beginning of the book and even
It was
the middle of it,
interesting.
it was
Yes.
really
Yep.
interesting, and I
It's
was
like, what's going on?
intrigued by the concepts
Yeah.
of it. And then, to be honest, by the end, I think it was just total dog shit. Like,
Totally.
Yes,
yeah, I was
totally. Yep.
mad because I took the stance that they didn't make it.
Okay, yeah, that's how I felt too. Yeah.
Oh.
Which would
And I
be
was
the
just
worst too.
fucking
Like, oh, I
angry.
just read 10
Yeah.
chapters about this forest travel and you die on the doorstep.
And
Like,
then everything they'd gone through. Why would the author have them die like that after everything they've been through?
Yeah.
Just have it be more, like something more interesting that values what they went
Yes.
through.
A chase or something. It could have been.
chase,
Yeah.
They did a car scene in here, right?
Because yeah, the end was kind of boring and it was super
Mhm.
sad. The end, they were sharing heat by thinking
Yeah.
about the sea, and so it was crazy, crazy sad. What kept me going was the assumption that there was a happy ending.
Yeah.
That's why I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
desperate for a sequel or something to be like, they lived
I think
something.
the joke is on us then, because then the author is literally like, Lois is literally like, checkmate. Because
Yeah, I
the
guess so.
dissatisfaction with not getting an ending or thinking it was a sad ending or whatever is like, if you lived in the giver's world, you wouldn't have to even feel this. You know what I mean? Like, see the
That's
ultimate
true.
like,
Yeah.
example.
She made you uncomfortable
Oh.
and
Yeah, yeah.
be like, I don't want discomfort, or do
Yeah.
I? Do I want discomfort, or do I not
Yeah.
want discomfort? And what is the price to
That's
pay?
Wow. Yeah.
I never. That's
What a
interesting.
good point. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point.
Lois, you
Yeah.
genius.
Yeah.
I mean,
Evil genius.
it's even the part where you're like, the journey's going, and, oh, this is arduous journey for me to read. But but they're experiencing that too for the first time too, right? Where they're just like, will we ever make it? This seems to be
We're
going
only
on
getting the book
forever.
two. It's so
Yeah.
Right? But like,
Yeah.
you know, she's like trying to transport you a little bit.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? Here's all the reasons the society is controlling all that, because the weather and the hunger and the stuff, like, look how bad it is out there. Illustrate it for the last bit of the book.
Yeah, this is what you think you want.
Oh.
Because the whole book, you're like, this is bullshit. You need to be individual, feel your feelings, yada yada.
Yes.
And then the feeling journey happens and it's terrible and the ending is disappointing at best. And then she's like, that's what you wanted. Like, this is
Right.
what you've been asking for the whole time.
Basically, there's no utopia because you have to strike a balance either way. Anybody who strives for utopia will never have it. There's always
You have
going
to
be-
sacrifice something.
You have to sacrifice something.
So depressing.
Totally.
I
Thanks a
feel
lot,
like so
Lois.
lame.
Lowry.
I feel like Lowry got bored. And she
Yeah.
her writing.
Well,
ended
so
up
did
in-
I. Just,
That's how I used to write stories as a child. I'd have a great beginning.
I'm so happy some of you felt that way too.
Actually, I
Yeah,
feel like you
same.
and I are jeans picks. You know, we talked about
Jeans picks.
Ashley and I have the same reception of books. We'll have to compare notes for books and movies.
Oh.
Ashley.
Yeah, we should do that. That would be cool.
Mhm.
Do you guys feel like with the sameness that they're striving for, before you saw the movie, did you feel like the sameness, they were all white in the society? Or did you feel like they had more
question.
color to them?
That's a great question. Because I saw the movie before reading the book, so this is impossible to answer.
Okay.
No, I think that, well, they were black and white.
Oh, true. Okay.
So I don't know if there was gradients of
Skin tone,
Okay,
so that
yeah.
in the black and whiteness you would tell that someone's more gray than the other person, but there was no color, so they were all
Yeah.
whatever.
Except the
I
redhead.
might,
He only knew
didn't?
she was a redhead when he could see color. Because he started
Right,
to see
right.
red,
Yeah.
right? He saw an
Oh,
apple,
Yeah.
and then he saw her red hair.
Yes.
But before then, he had no idea that she was a redhead.
Right.
Yeah.
it's hard to say about color though, but I think
It
that if they
is.
didn't take into account the black and white, like if she didn't make that a
Mhm.
thing, it probably would have been all white, right?
Yeah.
Or all
Yeah,
black.
yeah. That's kind of what I was getting just from the language.
but like, let's be serious. It's probably white.
Oh, totally,
Yeah.
right? Like low-key white supremacy. Because they say that they got rid of...
Right. That's what
Yeah,
I like.
they got rid of the differences, but Jonah could see the red in certain people's cheeks as well. But some people had more red than the other. And the giver was saying they couldn't take away all of the differences. Genetics haven't been caught up to that, so that's why some people had more red cheeks. And so that kind of made me wonder, are these people all supposed to be Caucasian or not? Because they're typically that's where you can see red in people's cheeks.
Yeah.
Didn't
because
Gabriel
all
have
children
blue
are red.
eyes?
Yeah, I'd say
Sure.
Gabriel had blue eyes,
Mhm.
and then the other
Mhm,
girl had
mhm.
red hair.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
maybe.
That's
Mhm.
pretty white supremacy. Like
Yeah.
blue eyed, blonde haired.
Fair skin.
But we don't know because we only have 3 samples from the whole community
Yeah, that's true.
That's
Mhm.
true.
of like
Yeah,
with any
that's true.
data.
Yeah. It wouldn't make any sense though, reading the book, for there to be too much diversity, I would think.
Yeah.
In race. I don't even think there'd be any religion that would be too potentially corruptible to their control.
But to Andrew's
Yeah.
point though, are they all
Yeah,
black?
yeah, I agree.
Well, it would be
Caucasian?
interesting to
Are
see
they
if they
all-
thought that
Mhm.
mattered, because that would be a really cool exploration to
That
really know
would.
the answer. Because in truth, skin color doesn't matter to the personality until you add in life experiences, etc.
Yeah.
And then it has a large impact. But in this weird society, do they see that as something that needs to be controlled? Like, they didn't kill everyone with red hair. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, those diversities are there.
Mhm,
So, and there's brown eyes and blue eyes. So those diversities were there.
Mhm, mhm.
They
Where
kind
did
of
they draw the
accepted-
line? Yeah.
Exactly. Was it like everyone
Yeah,
has to
like
have,
what's the cutoff? Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. We know that they want emotional and mental and psychological sameness. What about the
Yes.
physical aspect?
Because the only example for physical aspect is killing twins,
See,
which,
all these options could have been included in the book.
to make it more interesting.
Totally.
Or at least, like, the thing too is teachers should be doing what we're doing and drawing out the conversation.
Yes.
To just read this book and we'll never talk about it again. Probably not, but like, read this book and we're going to do an in-depth kind of exploration of
Discussion.
it. It could be valuable, right?
Like,
Yeah.
it's pretty
Mhm.
short.
Yes.
It's nice when it's short because then you have spend more time with the conversations rather than with the
Completing the
reading.
book.
Totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. With different
Do you think
reading
it depends
rates.
on who reads it as to how they perceive the society too? Like if
Yes.
someone who's
Totally,
black, do they
totally.
Oh,
think have to-
absolutely.
Which is
Yeah.
interesting too, because the book about the sameness or whatever, the uniqueness is exhibited by way of people all reading the same book about the
Mhm.
sameness and having different experiences of it, because we don't take those pills. You know what I mean? Like,
The boner pill.
yeah.
We don't take them.
So the giver is giving the receiver information about all of history. And we were just talking about different races and histories, and that would be included in the things he's giving him. So it should have been a topic, I think. If
Yeah, like, what
everybody
was
in
that
his
war about?
community looked the same, right? Exactly. That would be a topic if all of a sudden he had all the memories of history since the beginning of time, and then he looks at his community because he can see them in color now. If they didn't look
Yeah.
like what he now
Yeah.
has the knowledge of.
So maybe that's more evidence though that his community is diverse. Because
Yeah,
he
that's what I
didn't
mean.
ever note
Mhm.
that in his memories, you know, like, oh, and there were people there that I've never seen before, you know.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Right.
Maybe.
We'll never
Yeah.
know.
Couldn't put it all
Yeah.
in, I guess.
Yeah.
Couldn't put
true.
it all in.
I didn't experience the book like everybody else. I didn't find it difficult to read, or I just sat down, I read it all at once. I wanted to get to the end of so what was going on. So I did, for me, it didn't drag or
What were your feelings at the end of the book?
I like an ending like that
Yeah.
because then it makes me think about all the possibilities and what the author wants you to think about. Because it's so like up in the air, you really start thinking about the sled memory that he received.
Okay.
Is it real? So at the end, is he just
Mhm,
re-experiencing this memory because the baby's releasing it to him because the baby's dying?
Oh.
Or
Oh.
in my mind, I was like, did the baby die because he'd given all these things to the baby to help it get through? As we
Right.
know, when Rosemary died, all of the things she had received went out into the community. Did that mean the baby died? And if the baby died, then
Oh, I never
or the
thought of
sledding wasn't
that.
real. It was a memory. But if they survive and they're sledding down in the same way as the memory, then what does that mean? Was somebody looking into the future and that's where that memory came from? Is there something else going on? Trying to
Mm.
tease out, is it real? Is it not real? And what does it mean for the rest of society and the rest of the
Mhm.
memories that the giver was giving him? Are they present memories? Are they future memories? Is it just history or like more than that?
I
don't know.
never
I
thought of
liked
those
it.
layers.
So it makes you
Mhm.
thinking back
Yeah.
to all these things.
Yeah. It really sounds like that type of ending, at least with this book, allows you the opportunity, Meredith, to consolidate all of your learnings from that book to come up with potential predictable patterns of what the next steps would be, what future chapters would be.
Right. I like to
Yeah.
think about what the author is trying to say. Like, it's like art is a way of
Yeah.
showing,
Expressing.
trying expressing ideas and stuff. What is she saying? What's the commentary on our current world because of that? And so this
Yeah.
book, I think, is very relevant now, even though it was written before, because we're at a point in history where overpopulation is a huge thing. Maybe not right now, but there's going to be societies thinking about some of the themes in this book, really.
I think it's so relevant to today.
I agree. I mean, especially like there's so much around the DEI stuff about, everyone being authentic to themselves. And so not conforming. So I like that parallel you just drew. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It can totally be compared to colonization with indigenous people
Yep.
and how, if you are colonized and you come into this community and you assimilate into it, you're not going to go starving, you're not going to be poor, all these things are kind of like granted, but you lose that history, you lose that feeling of community, you're losing all of that stuff kind of that this community has taken away from all of their people, all of their feelings.
Yeah.
You're even losing like your
snatched away.
own native language and having it replaced with
Totally. Yep.
very clear, precise language, at least in
And
this
being
book.
scolded for
Yeah.
not saying it properly.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely. So you can totally see the parallels. I don't
Yeah.
even know if that's on purpose, but I mean, a good book, you can compare it to so many different times in history.
Like the
Mhm.
residential schools, that would be
Yeah,
a really
totally.
big
Yeah.
example of that.
hmm Earlier, I believe Kim was saying she thought that being the giver or receiver would be one of the best jobs. Do you guys have a job when you were reading that you were thinking, oh, I would like to do that?
Giver or receiver, just like Kim. Nothing
It's
else will do.
No, for real. It's
Yeah.
like I can see the power there as well. Like you get to turn off the speaker and it's the knowledge keeper. If you want to draw back another parallel to indigenous culture, right? Like it's the ultimate elder with all of the stories. You hold the key to the past. And just to your point too, Ashley, that assimilation, we see how well that works out. Like it kills people. You know what I mean? Their spirit, it just really is destructive. So the idea that this is a utopia is actually one, again, dystopian novel is all like, it's actually a nightmare.
Well, think about the parents too. So after the parents get paired, then they are allowed to have 2 children. And then once they get old, they're sent separately to old age homes.
Totally.
It
No
is a
friends for you.
nightmare. There's no connection. There's 25 years this person, and you're like, see ya. Now I go to an old age home where 11 and 12-year-olds
House of
bathe
the
me.
old.
Right?
Yeah, and then eventually they kill me with a needle. Like horrible. Just a
Really?
horrible existence.
Here's
Yeah.
on the flip side, the other question: is there anybody who, if they had the choice, wouldn't be the giver receiver and would choose a different one? Because I think the book is making you want to be the person who suffers.
Okay, Ashley, let's hear it. What would you want?
I would want to be a birth giver. Mostly because I think they're the only people that have sex. And I would be pretty sad in life if I couldn't do that. And they seem to be treated really they seem to be treated really well. They got a 3-year vacation after giving birth. Are you kidding?
They're the hard laborers after that.
Yeah, they go to hard labor.
All good. That's fine.
That's fine because she's having sex and going on vacay.
I got to smush. That's what I'm saying.
Smush.
That's all I want in life.
Gym tan laundry.
Do you have the same criteria?
Okay, but are we sure they're actually having sex? Like maybe it's just all artificial.
It is artificial.
Yeah,
There's not even any
I don't
men
think you're
involved.
having any sex.
Oh, really?
I don't think so.
No, they don't allow sex. It's against the rules.
If I found out that it was insemination, I would go over the bridge. That's what I would do.
I would release myself.
I would apply for release if it was not.
I would apply for release.
How did we lose that one? Oh, she couldn't have the sex. We lose so many that way.
We lose so many.
You wanted a different kind of release.
Yes, exactly.
I need some kind of release.
Any kind.
Any kind. If you won't give me this one, I'm out of here.
Totally. I need to release.
They would have to have the person who gives birth, and one of the jobs would be like a stud or whatever.
It would
Like,
actually, yeah, it would have to be.
Yes.
So
Sperm
she
donor.
Ashley would
Yeah.
only get the best. Only the best
Oh,
dick.
look at this. See?
See?
Thank you. That's what I deserve.
That's what I
Good
just
job.
So that's what I
Only
would
the
want
best
to
dick
be.
over here.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
So
gosh.
yeah, I mean the giver receiver, awesome job too, but I think a birth giver is probably top tier for me.
But wouldn't you feel like
sad.
well, you feel sad because you gave birth to a baby and then they take them from you.
3
Oh,
times.
no, that's
Immediately.
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
And they may kill it.
Yeah.
okay, fair enough. But you don't know that they kill it.
And you have to do the labor.
Okay, true.
All the labor.
Maybe because I've never been through labor.
There's probably no epidurals.
Oh.
Although maybe there is because they're like don't feel anything. So
Oh.
'cause
Maybe
they don't feel pain. So maybe
Yeah.
you're okay. Never mind.
It would just be C-sections all the way, do you think?
So maybe I go into labor and they put me to sleep and then I wake up with no baby.
Yeah.
Sold.
Yeah, but
Sold.
horrible.
Oh, yeah.
Sold. No, horrible. Awful. No, you would hate it.
the part I didn't
no,
love
I
about the
might.
birth mothers is that, you know how they were saying that there's no value in that
And
job
they're lazy.
from the
Yes.
community. And I
Yes,
thought
and
that was
it
bullshit.
reminded me
Yeah.
of how we treat sex workers in our community. We totally think they're bottom of the bottom. We treat them like shit, like they don't deserve healthcare, and that's just not true. Birth giving is such an important part of the community, and also sex work. That's our government driving people to do that. It's not. So
Yeah.
many times it's not their choice.
And as if
Exactly.
they're not working, people act like it's not real work. Like these people are working, my friend.
Mhm.
Like,
Harder
And they
than
get dangerous
Yeah.
situations. Yep. Yeah.
yeah, danger pay
They're-
too should be included.
Yeah, and they're traumatized potentially forever.
Yes.
Yeah.
The risk of murder being a sex worker is so high. It's really like they have such a dangerous job.
Violence,
Mhm,
murder.
absolutely.
I think it's a really hard cycle to get out of as well.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. There's just no support for it, right? It's
Mhm.
But also the fact that in the book they're saying even being a mother has no value. Giving birth to another human.
yes.
Labor,
Mhm.
all of that.
Yeah.
You're creating life. You can't do that without women. And it's
Mhm.
so ironic that that's also how society can see women as well. You're
Yeah.
just here to give birth, but you mean nothing
Mhm.
to society or this human being that you gave birth to. And it's how could you not? It's men. It's men that think that.
And it's funny that Lois is a woman,
and then
right? That
they
wrote that.
create-
It's pronounced Lois.
Yes.
Lois.
Allow
Lois
it.
wrote words on her
It's
pages.
the patriarchy again.
Fucking
Mhm.
patriarchy.
Always, I'll bring it back to the patriarchy every time.
Do
It's
it.
big,
Every time.
patriarchy.
Patriarchy. Ugh. Remember when Ashley, we read another book that if you listen to it on audio tape, well, even if you read it, after every time
Yeah.
they put patriarchy, it was always ugh.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
All right, my friends, I'm so sorry. I need to bail a few minutes early here to go be a taxi driver.
Before you
But
go,
can
say if
you-
you would recommend the
Yeah.
book.
I would, just because even like for all the reasons that came up, some people couldn't get into like the flow of the reading it, or some people hated the leaving you hanging ending. What it did do for me was create many pockets of opportunities to just think about things and reflect both within the book, but parallel it to like what's going on in the world. And that's a gift that the giver gave to me.
Oh.
I like thinking about those things,
Oh, I
you know?
love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, I
love
would
you.
recommend it.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
You are released.
I love it. Okay. I'm being released.
Bye, Kara.
Bye.
All
Oh
right,
my
everyone
gosh.
else. Who else recommends it or not recommends it?
I don't recommend it. And it's just my personal bias. I didn't like it in grade 8, didn't like it now. But I can see younger people, even people close to my age, liking it. It's just not the type of book I enjoy. So I would have a hard time recommending it. What about you guys?
I'm
I
with
feel
you.
the same way as Ashley, but I will say that our conversation today was the thing that brought me the most enjoyment out of this book. Before I was like,
Right.
throw it in the garbage.
Yes,
I don't
yes.
care. I hate it. Forget it. Like whatever. But talking about it today made it slightly more interesting for me. But the actual act of reading the book, no. And the story itself, like whatever. I think also the same as Ashley, like it's not my kind of book. I have a problem with like dystopian novels, and science fiction is not my genre of choice. So a couple stars have to align for me to actually really like books that fall into those categories. This one didn't quite have whatever that extra thing is that actually makes me develop some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? Positive feelings, any positive feelings toward it. I wouldn't
Yes.
recommend it. It's just a personal thing though. I don't think, now I'm just going to end it there. No recommendation here.
Okay.
Yes.
Virginia?
It's a hat trick. I would not recommend this book. However, I do think that there's some really great points here. Like I would love to see it rewritten almost with some of the concepts that I like. I feel like the dystopian world was kind of messy. Like some of it just doesn't, and I know it's not supposed to make sense, but just some of it just was too out there, like removing color. Like, how would you do that? You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, like, and it's just some stuff was just too far that I just couldn't really get on board with, even if it's, you know, fantasy dystopian world. But I liked part of it, right? Like I mentioned already, I love the concept of it. I love the conversation it would bring up with the beginning of the novel. It's halfway through when they start like describing more of this dystopian life, you know, with, like we said, like the color and that kind of thing. Then it was just like, okay, I'm out, you know? So it's a hard no for recommending it, but I do think it would be an interesting rewrite.
I love that your recommendation is rewrite the book.
Get yourself a busy and go rewrite this.
I recommend a rewrite.
Yeah. And there's so many other great books, like other band ones, like Catcher in the Rye and stuff like that. Like those are really great.
The Hunger Games.
The Hunger Games. Yeah. Yeah. So I think this one can sit on the shelf.
I'm like the opposite of Kim. I love dystopian novels and like a little bit of sci-fi in there. Love it. Would I recommend the book? I like the book as like a book club book, honestly. Sometimes you like have a book in a book club and the book was really enjoyable to read, but everything was laid out there. You didn't have to think about it. And you get to the book club and people are like, liked it, didn't like it. And that's it. There's no like conversation. That's what I like, is like talking about reading a book, talking about it, you know, coming up with these ideas and seeing what other people think, right? That kind of deeper dive. So, and for that reason, I think it is a good choice for school, even if some people might find it boring to read, because it's the conversations that are very interesting. I didn't find the book particularly boring either. Actually, there was a kid who had to pick a couple books for school. I think banned books. They're doing banned books. And he had a list and this one was on the list. I'm like, oh, I'm reading it. He's like, would you recommend it? I was like, yeah. Because if you're doing it for school, there's so much to write about. So I don't know if he ended up choosing it, but it's also short. So
Did you give the kid the Coles notes?
Did you tell him?
I said, read it. And like, come talk to me about it.
Okay.
Give me the Coles notes.
Right.
Yeah, maybe. I guess I kind of did. It's not a thing to like write home about, I guess.
I would recommend it. I thought it was a really
reason?
fast read. I liked it enough. I hated the end because unlike Meredith, I was willing to go through the boring, they're suffering to get to this happy ending. And then when they didn't, I was super disappointed. So I would recommend it, but I didn't love it. I thought it was good enough. Like I read through it. I liked it enough. I hated the end so much. I'm going to read the sequel, The Sea. And if the sequel is super disappointing, then maybe I write off.
I may withdraw my recommendation.
Yeah.
If both kids don't live and they don't have a happy Christmas with grandparents, I might write off the whole thing.
I love your threats.
I need
But
a
you've got
happy
some high
ending.
expectations.
Well, that's why I read Jane Austen. Happy ending every time.
Happily ever after. You always know that's the end.
Right. And most Jane Austen spin-offs always have the happy ending. That's all I want. It's like knowing that it's going to be fine. They can struggle, but it's going to be fine. Yeah. So I hated the ending, but I'd recommend it. And it was super fast read.
Yeah.
That's what I really liked about it too, was how fast it was. Just even in an afternoon, I was halfway done the book. But I do agree with you guys. It's such a good conversation book. So yeah, maybe for a book club or something, I could see it being recommended for that.
By you?
Yeah.
Not by me. Not by me, but I could see it being out there.
boy.
Any last thoughts? And then we'll move to the next book, which is something diary of
Absolutely true.
yes, absolutely true diary of
Part-time Indian.
thank you.
Seamless.
Great.
Thank you.
Is that a graphic novel?
It is a graphic novel. Yeah.
But it's
I
not
don't have it yet.
it's not as graphic as previous graphic novels.
Oh.
Like it's not like a comic book.
Oh no, I haven't got one yet.
No.
By not as graphic, were you referring to like the naked cadaver pictures?
Well, that's the
from
only,
Fun Home?
unfortunately, that's the only graphic novel we've done before this. So I guess by default I am, but I'm also referring to graphic novels that I've read with Fred. And I just mean it's not set up like a comic. As
Right.
far as graphic goes, it's pretty graphic. So it's just the
During
format isn't like
when you were
oh,
reading that.
Pretty graphic, but not graphic.
not literally graphic. It's
Really
not
graphic.
literally graphic. It's figuratively a little graphic, but not literally.
I like that.
Mm,
Wrap it
Alright.
up.
Book interrupted.
I traveled internationally and my bag did not make it to my final destination. I wasn't too worried about it because it's happened before, many times before, and usually the bag is delivered to me in a day or two or at least a couple weeks. But this time it was not. I've been on the phone a lot with the airline I bought it through and also with their affiliate airline that my trip got transferred to and airports and really just want to get my stuff back. It's not like it's that nice of stuff. It's just that it's my stuff and I don't want to have to replace it. Anyway, hopefully one day soon I'll have an interruption saying that I got a call from the airline and they found my bag. But until then, it is interrupting my life kind of on the daily, just trying to get answers. Oh well.
Book interrupted.
It's book report time. We're going to find out from each member their final thoughts. And do they recommend the book? Let's listen.
Hello, hello. I am here to give my final book report on the book The Giver by Lois Lowry. I have to admit, I saw the movie first before reading the book. That would be a classic Kara move, watching the movie before reading the book, just because if the book is really good, I don't want it to be spoiled by the movie afterwards. So I kind of like to do things in a reverse order. The book wasn't bad. What I mostly enjoyed about it was the themes that were played with, just around like emotions, control, as well as what does storytelling and memories, how does that impact a society or a community, or when those things are missing, what happens? So I was really interested in that. I didn't find that reading the book, it didn't seem to like, I don't know, some books you can just get into it and the language and the writing, like everything really flows. It felt a bit more choppy to me, so I appreciated the movie a bit more because it seemed to have a fluidity and flow to it. I also really enjoyed how the main character was a teenager. It was really nice by having the main character as a teenager, was able to in the movie have a love interest, and that added another layer. It was kind of like more of a hook actually in the storyline. It allowed me to become a bit more invested in the character. The book wasn't bad. I absolutely would recommend it. I just appreciated and liked and connected with the movie a bit more. But what I would love to share with you is just some of my thoughts that I'm processing. Like a utopian society, and the idea that this group of people, the elders or the ones in charge, kind of thought like the way to go about creating this utopian society is obviously the removal of our past, our histories, our stories, erasing those memories. Those are all housed and held within the giver and the receiver only. No one else outside of that dynamic is privy to that. And it just kind of got me thinking a lot about one of my latest areas of interest is looking at the hierarchies in our educational system and wondering about, well, what would an alternative learning model look like? and just that whole like decolonizing education has led me to start to do a lot of research on my own around the importance with any given community, how important it is to have those histories, to have the oral storytelling traditions, to hold those memories and to not forget. You see that a lot in Jewish culture and indigenous ideologies, how important it is. Those are guiding principles. And the essence of part of that is so that we don't repeat mistakes, so that we learn from our past, so that we can collectively grow into being the highest versions of ourselves. And I just thought it was so fascinating because of this book to be able to reflect upon how important it is to have our memories. Like, what purpose does an individual's memory serve? What purpose does a communal or a collective memory serve? How does that tie into collective consciousness? What does it mean to be human, and what is humanness? So it was just really fun to like not even arrive at any answers, but to be walking away with a lot of really interesting and jam-packed questions. So for a wanderer like myself, someone who thoroughly enjoys reflecting than more so than they do producing or doing things, I would say those are like the main reasons why I enjoyed this book and why I liked the movie, because of all the ideas it started to generate within me, all the curiosities that came about. What happens when groups of people get together? So I'd absolutely recommend it. If you do read the book, I would love to hear from you. What were your thoughts? What did you like? What didn't work for you? And what kind of new questions came about as a result of reading this book?
Okay, so we are going to do, what would we call it, book report for The Giver. And I want to know if you can ban a book for sucking, because this book did. Honestly, it was boring. I didn't like the way it was written. I found the language literally hard to say. It was choppy. Maybe it was supposed to be like that, robotic, like how the whole life is all super controlled or whatever. But I did not like the book. I forced my son to read it with me. He didn't really like it either. Small positive note, and spoiler alert, I did like that at the end they kind of get away or whatever, but that book was just, I don't even know. I didn't like it. I wouldn't recommend it. I also don't really like science fiction usually, so it's got to be a pretty good science fiction-y novel to get me. And I wonder what's going on here, because I also didn't like Handmaid's Tale, kind of for the same reason. It takes so long to get to where you want it to go that when it finally gets there, it's the last page or whatever. And so you're like, well, that was a waste of time. I guess I should have just waited for book 2. And I also wonder if what I just said is true, then perhaps the way that I should handle these kind of stories, if it's possible, is to read book 2 so that I can develop enough curiosity about what happened before. And then we might have a match made in heaven. And I might actually say I liked a book. But yeah, The Giver was lame. I mean, maybe it was just because the world that it was describing was lame. And so I felt all the lameness like I was supposed to. Maybe the author wanted me to feel lame. Unclear. But anyway, do not recommend. Don't waste your time. You have been released.
So we just finished the book, The Giver by Lois Lowry. It was a really long time ago when I read the book, it seems. I read it in a single sitting. So it's kind of hard to recall what I thought about it. Although I'm going to say that I liked it because I read it all at once. I just needed to know what happened. I needed to get to the end. And if you've listened to the rest of the podcast, you'll know that it's not a satisfying end. It's really open-ended. It's open to interpretation. A lot of people don't like that. I like that. It makes me think. So I did enjoy the book. I don't see any reason not to recommend it. It wasn't life-changing for me, but I liked the book. It was really short, so, why not? It talks about a lot of things that we're going to be dealing with or are dealing with already with climate change and all that stuff. So very interesting. Themes in this book go along with something else that I'm currently interested in, which is longevity research, which does seem not related, but I'll tell you why. There's a researcher called Dr. David Sinclair, and he does longevity research, and he has coined this term adversity mimetic. So he's saying that things that mimic adversity to our bodies make us stronger. So the whole idea of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And his argument is that we live in a world of comfort, and all these abundance mimetics we have, I guess, or all this abundance we have is actually not good for our health, because we evolved in a world where we had adversity, and our body evolved to repair itself when it was presented with this kind of adversity. And I think that this book is looking at stuff like that. So they're trying to control the society, and they're trying to make it very comfortable. There's no conflict, and everything is very controlled. What a seemingly nice place to live for people who are conflict avoiders. You know, there's just very strict rules everybody has to follow. But in the end, when you try to make this very comfortable world, it doesn't work. It's not good for the people. And whether the book ends happy ending or bad ending, I think it becomes clear that the society, the community that was left behind is going to suffer because they really couldn't control everything. They put, all their eggs in one basket in a way by putting all the history into, one or two people, and losing that person now shows that all their efforts made them a very unhealthy society that won't be able to handle the loss of the receiver, or ultimately when the giver dies, the loss of the giver. So it makes you think. It's nice to have comfort in life and to be able to relax, but maybe not too much. You can't relax your whole life away. You got to do a little bit of exercise, or your body's going to not work very well. Just like you need a little bit of feelings, or your community maybe doesn't really act like a real community because nobody cares for each other. That's all I have to say. Read the book, don't read the book. I think it's great for a group discussion. So I think it's nice that it's used in schools to spur these discussions, because isn't that what reading books in schools is all about? Is learning how to read a book and really think about what the author's thinking and dissect it and see what you think about the world or the world they created. That's it for me.
So I would recommend this book. It was super fast. It's a really short book. My book has 224 pages. It's meant for like a young audience again, like either young adult, youth, juvenile book. It kept you engaged the whole time. It wasn't complicated. For instance, when people are released, it was clear for me from the beginning that released means that they probably killed them. I really liked the book. I like the concept of, if you take away all obstacles and all memories of anything that was struggles, that, not peace, but people just kind of go through their routines. No one's really happy, no one's really sad. They're neutral, they're colorless. So I thought that was an interesting take. I kind of like how the giver shares their memories. That was a kind of cool thing she did, how they place their hands and then the memories can be released. What I didn't like about this book, which is a definite spoiler if you haven't finished it yet, is I hate that it just ends, that we don't know if it's a happy ending. I really needed it to be a happy ending. Like, I wanted it to be a happy ending. I don't know if it's going to be like The Handmaid's Tale for me, but I'm just going to pretend it was a happy ending. And that Christmas scene was legit, and he and the little guy that he took with him have a happy family now and live in a different world where there's colors, and that they actually escaped. It was really sad, the end of the book, when they're like sharing memories of warmth and stuff. Yeah, the end of the book was super sad. Like, just so sad that I was hoping that the finale would be, of all that sadness, something good. Or a sequel. I don't know, maybe there is a sequel, I'm not sure. I didn't look that up. Maybe there's a sequel to this book. I guess I'll ask the other people in the club if there is. Anyway, I really like how it's like he's left his youth behind and almost his culture behind when he gets all these memories and all this knowledge of the way the world is other places and has been in the past, and how angry he is at them for not caring about releasing people and that kind of thing. So I like how the author painted that conflict within himself, that he kind of grew past this neutralness with understanding and knowledge, and then how the giver was trying to set him up for it. I'd also like that they made a plan to slowly give back some memories, help the people be able to have color and sympathy and something other than these strict rules of either here nor there, without connection, really. Anyway, I really liked it. I just really wish there was a sequel or a happy ending, because the end of the book was super sad. All right, can't wait to talk to everyone else about it.
Hey everyone, this is Ashley, and I'm doing my personal journal for the end of The Giver. And how I feel about the book is pretty similar to when I started. I really don't enjoy this book. I think it's boring. So much of it is surface level. You don't get enough detail, in my opinion. There's this very unique dystopian world where people are considered same. And I don't think we get enough background onto how we got there or how they got to remove people's color or what the pills that they're taking really do, in my opinion. But I did switch from reading the physical book to the audiobook. And if I had to recommend the book, I would recommend the audiobook because when Jonah is experiencing new things, the audiobook actually plays sounds. It starts playing before Jonah really even tells the reader what he's seeing. You actually start to get excited, and I think that's the point, is to get the reader to experience kind of what Jonah is feeling, to make you feel the same excitement or curiosity, kind of like what's coming up. So I really enjoyed that. The audiobook was a lot better for me than the actual book. The ending, I don't like open endings like that. So the ending was open. I don't super love that. To me, what I think happened in the end is I don't think they made it. I can't wait to hear what the other girls think. So I just think the book needs to be expanded on. Really, there's so many things that I think could be taken out and replaced with something more interesting. I guess I kind of understand why it's in the school curriculum, or it was 10, 15 years ago. I don't know if it is now because it's a banned book. I would also like to know why it's a banned book. I'll have to look that up myself. But it's not my favorite book. Out of the books we've read for the podcast so far, I think this is my least favorite. And I feel kind of bad saying that. I think I also came in with a negative point of view to begin with, and that may be impacting how I feel. But I'm most just excited to talk to the girls about it and then hear what my other friends think. Although I do want to give a shout out to my friend Sienna, who did spoil part of the book for me, but that's okay. That's totally fine because I did read it when I was in grade 8. I just didn't remember everything. So yeah, shout out to her. And I can't wait to hear what the other gals think.
I am filming my final book report from beautiful Prince Edward Islands. So the question is whether or not I would recommend The Giver. Spoiler alert, I'm going to be talking about the spoilers at the ending, so switch it off if you don't want to hear it. I guess it all depends on what your perception is on the finale of the book, if you think that Jonas and Gabriel survived or not. I would say I would 100% recommend the beginning of the book and the first half of it. I really liked what the author did with the concepts of it, and it really made you think about whether or not you'd want a certain dystopian community. I imagine you could make parallels to it with any part of future generations or past generations, almost like you can with 1984, George Orwell's 1984. So I think that was really great, and especially for kids to really be able to dive in and dig into the concepts that they present in the book about sameness and not having individuality and people picking like your careers and your spouses and your families. So I think that's really interesting and thought-provoking. So I was really invested in the characters and this journey of Jonas and Gabriel. But by the end, again, like I said, the perspective I took wasn't that they made it. And so I literally threw the book and swore. So I'm going to say no, I do not recommend this book. But the other women in this Book Interrupted podcast, they took it a different route. So a couple of them thought that they did survive. And my understanding is that there's sequels that also allude to, a more concrete ending. So if I took it in that regard, perhaps, but I still only give it like a 6 out of 10. So I think there's other books out there that if you're looking for a banned book, that might be more worthwhile. That's it for me.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Book Interrupted. If you'd like to see the video highlights from this episode, please go to our YouTube channel, Book Interrupted. You can also find our videos on www.bookinterrupted.com.
Bookies, we really want to hear from you. Go to www.bookinterrupted.com to find out the variety of ways you can get in touch. Give us a call and leave a voicemail, and we will play it on the podcast. Or write us an email, and we can read it on the podcast. Or better yet, leave us a review on iTunes. Anything, bookies. We want to hear from you. Pretty please. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Tell us books you think we should read. Tell us about your favorite moments. Tell us anything. Please, we want to know what you think. So don't forget, that's www.bookinterrupted.com or iTunes, and leave us a review. We will love to hear from you. Talk to you soon, bookies.
Book interrupted.
Never forget, every child matters.